Okay. I have pinged as many people as I can ping. So let me know if you guys can see everything. Okay, so what we're going to do today is I made this right before I went to the Santa Fe Symposium, and a couple of people were interested in it. And the only thing I did was edit those three curves, that's 4, and then that surface. And I was able to get a contoured band that matches up perfectly. So we are going to remake this, and I'm going to just grab those two things, the stone layout, because it's you guys don't want to see the tapered stone layout. But I'm going to take and put these into a blank Rhino file. Keep the current block. Okay, and we're going to make this ring from this position. But before we do that, I want to talk about a few things. So my goal with Rhino is to make make templates that I can bring into a file and reuse. And this was an example of that. I brought in one template file, made a couple of edits, and got a perfect matching band. Now, before I started doing templates, well, I started out in Matrix using builders, and builders were great when I didn't know how to do anything. They let me quickly get up and running. But the problem was anything out of the ordinary, you know, the builder just won't let you do. It becomes very difficult. So then I went away from builders and I started doing everything from scratch. And something like this would have taken me hours to get right. And now with templates, I can get it done in less than 30 minutes. And I think everything, you know, in the future should be a template that you make, you understand, you know how to control it. And the thing that's stopping people is like a couple of key concepts. So I want to go through those. And let's see, I've got notes here and a little demo file that we can go through. Okay. So I think if we were using a builder, let me make the cam small so you can see the screen. Okay. I think if we were using a builder, we would have something like this, where you would have this curve and this curve, which is curve to view, and that would give you this, we can delete that for a second. You know, we've got this curve to view we can use, where we can change this rail. And then if we were using a builder, it would do like a sweep one. You know, this would be our sweep. And it would put these profile rails out here for us. Automatic. Okay. Line those up. And then we would get this sweep. But the problem is, you know, it's putting these profile rails out there, which, you know, I think in Matrix you would double click on it and you could go and actually edit it in another little weird side thing. But it's very hard, you know, using a curve to view to get this to match up. You're going to have a gap there. You're eating into the center of it there. So one of the first things that I would suggest is try not to edit things in situ, right? So you've got this curve, that curve, and that curve. It's very hard to edit this like in this space. So what you should do is try to delete that. What you should do is at least lay them out over here flat, and then flow them. We would flow these rigid into place. And then we can use this curve to view and do a sweep. Sweep one, grab that, that, and that. And then we've got to fix that again. All right, so now you can at least edit this in a flat plane, not over here. But it, like, that's the start of how to make this more usable, right? Take these things that are in an awkward space and at least get them flat. All right, but we can take it a step further than that. Okay, we can flow from a straight line onto this curve to view. So we can say flow rigid from this curve. We need to make sure stretch is on because we don't know if the length of this base curve is the same length, and every time we change this, the length is going to change. Okay, and that did not work right, but one of my feature requests is in Rhino now. We can have flow rigid, and we have the option for a target surface so that when we flow it on, now this is flat, and we can now do the sweep. Boom, boom. Get it? Fix that guy again. Okay. Now we can edit it in a straight line. So, you know, before we had them over here, now they're in a straight line. And what we're trying to do is extract as much of our control into a nice editable workspace where we can do stuff like this. You know, if you were trying to do a symmetric edit, you would, you know, pretty much always use scale. But now you're changing this and you have a nice clear editable surface to work on. You know, while I was out at Santa Fe, I was talking to like Gary Dawson has Rhino training, GIA has Rhino training, Paris School for Jewelers has Rhino training, and pretty much all of them are saying the same thing. You know, I've been saying get off of Matrix since for about 8 years now. But since they didn't give you an upgrade path between Matrix or Rhino Gold in Rhino 5 to anything current, you know, Rhino 7, and it's called Matrix Gold now, since there's no upgrade path, a lot of people are just saying, I'm done with plugins. And I understand that. Not all plugins, but the builder heavy plugins, yeah. In a lot of ways, they're holding you back. So one of the things that I do have is you need some things for jewelry, right? Like I've got a finger rail and I have the finger size 7, and I have some built-in offset. So if I was doing this in platinum, I would want to offset that size 7 by 0.35. So to account for the extra shrinkage, and it's something that with my platinum castings I've measured, I get about that much shrinkage in the finger size. So I'm going to go ahead and bump it. And with gypsum investment, I get like an 1/8 of a finger size. I lose to shrinkage. So that's my default for gypsum. But if you don't, anyways, this is a script. I click that and then I get a size 7 on this layer, select objects. There it is. It's just hidden underneath the scan. I can do a smaller finger size, finger rail size 4, and there's the size 4. And you know, and my script will label it. It's a size 4 with a 1/8 offset. So it's not a true size 4, but it is a size 4 that I intend to cast in gypsum. You do need some scripts like that, and I do have. Let's see here. Let me pull up a new window. And in the video description, there is a link to this. These are my scripts. So in the scripts, I have finger rail, and I also have a layers thing that I'll show you. But the finger rail, and here's the script for it. And it's an open source license. You can use it anywhere, and you can adjust your, 0 offset or gypsum or platinum offset, whatever you've measured for your setup, your printer, your investments. You can go ahead and create a default, or just use 0. But all of the code is here. It's open source. You can take it, do whatever you want with it. This shows you how to install, like there's instructions on how to install a Python script in Rhino. And yeah, and people also ask me for my settings, my Rhino settings, what I'm using. And make sure you have a backup before you try and use my settings. But there they are, my color scheme, and that's pretty much all you want to take in. You don't want any of my other stuff, I can promise you, because it's all weird and you won't know what's going on. But anyways, there's a link to this down in the video description, so you can get the finger rail from that. Okay. So we have extracted stuff, but there's still a couple of things I don't like about this. One, I don't have very good control over this curve to view. Curve to view is easy. It's easy to set up, but it's difficult to really, make a tight setting here that, this is, you can see that this is overlapping. And if I try and bump it out, now I've got a gap there, and then I move this up, and it's just really, really hard to get this to work with curve to view. Like, I can't get a hard turn right here at this corner. But that's okay. We can make this more editable. Let's go. Well, I'll show that in the next example. We can make this more editable by not using the curve to view. And once we ditch the curve to view, we have no excuse to keep using sweep. Like, there's just no excuse for it. This, if I were to mirror this to the other side and look at it real closely, okay, that actually does have pretty good tangency across there. But what if it didn't? Like, what if we want to, go away from using these curves and just edit this directly? Well, that is not a very editable surface. That's a very difficult to edit surface. And all of your sweeps will be that way. All of your sweeps will have more control points than you need, which makes it very difficult to work with. All right, so let's look at other ways that we can, extract key control things and put them in a more editable setting. And I'm going to show you my 3-stone template. Okay, so all of this, okay, comes from over here with this curve. So it flows from here, flow curve from there to there, so that I can take and do things like this. Move those curves, and now everything's going to update. So now there's more space between, oh, and I broke something, didn't I? I did. Well, I broke this. This is a finished job coming from my 3-stone template. Those prongs are supposed to be on there. Broke something. Oh well. Shoot. Well, I just opened an old 3-stone file figuring it would work, and the prongs are broken. But you can do things like, so this center size is a 7.35. Now I have a group here with all of these things, and even though I haven't looked at this in 6 months since I made this ring, I know that this group is responsible for the size of this stone. So if I want to take it from a 7.35, I just grab the group. I'm going to relocate the gumball to the base there, and I'm going to shift and scale this. So 8 over 7.35. We're going to turn that into a size 8mm stone. And it just updated everything. We can see it's a size 8. And if we go over here and undo, redo, we can see that these prongs didn't break. We can see that that moved, and I can take that center and offset it if I want to. So these prongs didn't get broken. When I finished this file, I broke my side prongs for some reason, and I don't remember why, but that's okay. You can use the template until you want to break things. It looks like I wanted to change these to be, yeah, these are a little more tucked in against the shank. But now the shank is kind of hidden there. I can take that and move that down. So I have a very editable situation here. Move those over. There you go. This is much more editable to me, that I can work on all of these, in a kind of flat matter and then put them over onto here. And there's a ton of stuff in here. I don't want to get too bogged down, but this is the power of templates. Like, this whole ring took me less than 30 minutes, 30 minutes to make, and I can come back in, and if I didn't break it, I can edit it to be different stone sizes. But realistically, I never come into a finished model and reuse that file. I always go to, let me do new here. No, don't save. I would come in here and pull out my 3-stone template, import that file, and now I have, the basics for this, where now when I move this, everything should come along with it, including the prongs. And, when I bring it in, it was whatever finger size this originally started at. But if I change this, let's see, scale 2D, 0, and we'll just kind of in the middle there, it's going to update everything to match this finger size. Now, why does it take so long? That is a problem. There is not 191 things in this file, but it updated 191 times. That is a problem that I'm working with McNeel on trying to get fixed. And I can show you it real simply. So this is what I'm talking to them about right now, which is if I have a curve, like boom, 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 and I offset this, I'm going to offset it loose by 2. Okay, and I offset that by 2, and I loft this 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do a loose loft. Okay, if I update this, it's going to say it updated 5 objects, but there's only 4, okay? And only 3 have history. So somehow, with only 3 objects that have history, it made 5 updates. And the reason it does that is it's updating this surface multiple times. So when I move this, it will update the surface, then it updates this curve, then it updates the surface, then it updates this curve, then it updates the surface. So it's Rhino history wasn't really thought of this way. You were supposed to have like 2 independent things. You were supposed to have 2 independent things that weren't related. And then they had a baby. And now when you update this, we'll only get 1 object updated. Okay. because you usually have, multiple parents to a single child. With the way that I'm doing things now, this has 4 children, but it's my, they're brothers, and the surface, its brother is its father. Illegitimate history. Let's call it that. And that's where we get this situation where Rhino really starts to slow down because it's updating 5 things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. It's updating the surface every time. And that is a problem. A couple of questions. Do you recommend to start to use a 3D mouse? I love a space mouse. 3D connection, I'm not a big fan of like the company or their drivers, but there's really nothing else out there, and I have a hard time working without it. Like, I love being able just to move with one hand and then pick things with the other. Yes, I highly recommend having a space mouse, which means you need a 3D program that will use it, which is most 3D programs on the planet except for ZBrush. So use 3D Coat instead. That's probably the #1 reason why I started using 3D Coat, and then I discovered it's better than a lot of stuff that ZBrush does anyway. But 3D Coat will let you, like, what's more normal than moving like this and then sculpting with your right hand? It's the same way that you would, if you were actually sculpting something, you would hold it with one hand and then work on it. And as you turn it, like, this is a very natural movement in a 3D space. So yes, I would definitely recommend that. All right, we got another question. Oh, did it go? Yes, ZBrush does not support Space Mouse, and ZBrush just has a terrible UI. The way you interact with it, it's anti every other 3D program that, like, I've got all this knowledge about how to do 3D modeling, and I go into ZBrush and I have to forget all of it to use their UI. It's terrible. And 3D Coat is honestly better. If you use ZBrush and do, creatures for movies, you still go into 3D Coat to do your topo mapping, to the painting, the decimation, all of that you use 3D Coat for. And ZBrush does support Space Mouse. Not since I abandoned it, which was, when did Botha introduce us to 3D Coat? 8 years ago? It did not, and they said they never would, and I said okay. And Botha introduced 3D Coat, and I started using it. So, and I honestly like the sculpting in 3D Coat better because you don't have to use decimation, Z remesher. It's voxels. I've never had a bad mesh. I've never had a crash. Um, Never had to use the multi-stage, uh, multi-level meshes where you go down and go up in resolution. None of that. It's a lot straightforward. Booleans is actually a Boolean, subtract from, add to. They don't call it a part library. It's a layer. Um, I've not used ZBrush in a long time, but I was thoroughly frustrated with it. And the brushing is very good in 3D Coat. It used to be that ZBrush brushes were a little bit better, but now 3D Coat is, they've come a long way with their brushes, and they're on par. Good morning, Jim Garden. Okay, let's go back to what I had planned here. So this history thing, I'm talking to them about making sure that, it updates in order of seniority. So we would only have 3 updates coming out of this because it does 1, 2, 3 instead of updating that surface every single time. That can I have not tried Blender. What do you think about Blender sculpt mode? I have not tried Blender, and now, you know, Chris Botha is saying I need to start using Blender, like he put me onto 3D Co. I just haven't got there. It's coming though. I know it's coming. I know I need to learn Blender because there's something else that I wanted to do that was in Blender. Oh, Moto's mesh fusion, where you can do a Boolean and you can have a part and Boolean it and determine how much of a fillet between the two parts. You know, edge softening. So I'm going to get to Blender one day soon. Um, all right, let's go back to this one and stop using sweep altogether. Because if I were to do this with a, let me delete that. If I were to do this with a sweep, so we'll say sweep 1. Actually, let's put these into place where they're supposed to be. So we are going to flow this rigid from there. Make sure stretch. Yes, stretch to there. Okay. And now I want to do a sweep 1. Boom, boom, boom. Am I going to have to, everything lines up. Okay. And then flow this into place. Okay. Let's say that, oh, I did the wrong one. Let's say that we don't like the tangency between these two. Lock the scan. Let's say I don't like the tangency between these two. And it looks pretty good. I don't think it's perfect, but it looks pretty good. I can't really edit this, right? This is not really, I would never want to edit this. So what are my choices? I can't, you know, come in here and add an extra one of these, you know, do another sweep. I can't really add an extra one in the middle here. I would have to do control point editing on that. And it's just nasty. There's no editability to it. Okay. But what if we do, instead of flowing this over here, what if we did a loft? Loft this, this, and this. And make that loose. Okay. And now we look at these points. And now this is very editable. And we can get it into place with a sweep. We can say, or a flow, excuse me. Flow from there to there. And then flow from there to there. Okay. Which one is the one that we added? Let's delete those so we can keep track. Flow from there to there. Okay. Now I can come in here and turn the points on for this and say insert control point and flip that the other direction. Okay. Oh, I have to break history. I have lock history on so I don't break history by accident. And let's add right there. Okay, and now I do have another set of control points where I can say, so this is the Y and the Z. So I'm going to set Y, set Z to there. And I can make this match. Oop. That point. You know, I can make all these match. Not great, but it is editable. So Rhino does have a command called hide points, which is really great when you're working with everything stacked up together. So those need to be on the same XY or ZY. This is time consuming, but you can do this without breaking history. You know, if you already had your stones laid out on the surface, you wouldn't want to break your history just to be able to add one row of control points. And now if we look at this, we can change that. And when we mirror it around, we're going to get, you know, perfect tangency between these two, because we've got these control points that are the exact same on each side. So we will get tangency between them, but I can adjust that. I can bring that square down. So in essence, I can add another another profile curve after, you know, in the sweep one terms, I can add another profile curve after I've got this in place without breaking history on this guy. And this is where I would have my stone layout. This is where I would have, you know, everything flowed onto this surface. I don't want to delete it and start over because I need to, you know, modify my shank thickness. And at the bottom, this does not have tangency, but we can do the same thing here. We can take and say insert control points and do that here. And then hide these guys. Hide control points. And then do the same kind of XY mapping, YZ mapping to get those to match. By adding that in, I made the tangency a little worse. So that's why we use Loft. It's, you have a editable surface to work with. Your strategy should be go for something editable and then flow it into place and lose all of your, and lose the ability to edit it once it's in place. You go from very lightweight, it will be heavy once you get it into position, but you can use multiple steps. You can use flows. Where's my, oh, I closed out the 3 stone. And that's where we get to this guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this. That's all I'm going to take from this. And we are going to, oh, I already copied it in. We're going to make this from scratch. All right, so my surface is the right size. So the first thing, actually the only part for this is my shank. I'm just going to bring the shank in, import the file, and then we'll just do a history update all, just to get that shank into place. Now this is one of my other feature requests called Joincopy. And if you've seen how I made this, my shank template, you understand this. But this is the control, and it's mirrored around to this side. And then I use Joincopy to join those together to make this. And then I do, it is curve control points from polyline. So if I take this Joincopy and I call curve from polyline, I can set the degree and I get this. Now, if I want to add more detail, I can say insert control point, and I can add another control point there and there. It updates to the other side, and now I get, you know, I have more control. I've got my junk unlocked and my curves locked. There we go. You know, from this little degree 1 curve, I get symmetric editing between the two sides. And I'm going to undo that because I don't need the extra control points. Okay. And so the first thing is we need to get this. I don't want to see my junk. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is get this shank flow, and let's move it out here to the side so we can see the shank. And the second thing we'll do, I'm going to isolate this, and with a scan, this is a good little tip. I'm going to make a circle that's just inside the finger. I'm going to turn the points on for this, and there is a selection tool. I don't know the name of it. I always have to go over here. Select, not lasso, select by curve. So you can draw a circle or select by boundary curve. And then I will find my curve there. Tell it okay. All right, and that's going to grab all of the points inside of that circle, and I'm going to hit delete. Okay, so now I can see the inside of my ring. So when I unisolate everything and bring it back, I don't need to see my base layer anymore. I can see where this shank is intersecting with the part. So as I'm editing this curve, I'm going to look on the inside and see just where it stops touching. Bring that out a little bit more. Okay, so everything I need to edit this, I've isolated into discrete components. Now this, I normally like to rebuild curves like I would do at 5/8, but because this has a kink on this corner, it needs to come and make a sharp turn. I'm going to reduce the degree, which lets me be, have a sharper corner, right? Okay, so I'm going to make that 3/8, and then I'm going to leave the points on for this, and I need to figure out where this corner is. Okay, so when I change that, that's starting to wrap around, but I know I need to make this tight, so I'm going to bring those. That's a little too tight. I'm going to look at it from this view. I'm going to look at it from this view. And then I'm going to edit over here. So right now it's a little bit too far down. So I'm going to take all of these guys and move them over. Till I get this in the right kind of spot, and that looks like it's following. Okay, then next I want to go down this edge and start working these guys up. And I know I want to start it here and then bend over, so I'm going to grab these guys and move those all the way over. I think I went a little bit too far. Nope, not intersecting. Oh, I am intersecting. A little bit. Okay, now I can see that edge and it's not poking through. Okay, now I need to work on the middle. So let's bring this over. Oop, bring that over. Okay, I'm intersecting, so bring it back a little bit. And now for the top. Okay, so I have the base of this shape, but there's a wrinkle. These stones taper. So let me see what this stone size is. It's a 2.1, and we're going down to a 1.7. So for a 1.7 at the base, let's start with, this is 2 millimeters, which should be good for the base thickness. So when I get to my 1.7, this is a fishtail. So I want to have like 15th on each side. So 0.3 and 1.7 is 2. We're golden. As we go up, oh, but the bottom of this ring shank is kind of a, this is curved and this is more of a V shape. So we can turn on our curves and we can make this more of a V shape by doing this. All right. We can make it a little bit wider if we want, but so it's obviously a shallower at the base. I don't like making them this in, so the proportions on this is 2 by like 1.5. 2 by 149, yeah. But you know, that's fine. All right, and at the top, this was a 2.1. So I'm going to take this and let's see. So first I need to turn allow you to break history without a warning. We need this to have a flat top, so we're going to set that up to there. We want a sharp corner because we're going to be setting stones over here. And then 2.1 plus the 0.3, that needs to be 2.4 thick. It's 2 now, so half of that is 0.2. And now if we look at this, 2.394, we can bump it a little bit more. Let's just go 0.01, so we're over. And then we also need some more depth. Oop, I've got lock history off, and I just think I edited my curve. Try and leave them locked. So let's do 0.21 and take this and bump it up to 2.5-ish, so we have some depth. And we can go back and look at this and see that, all right, that's got enough depth for stone setting. This is a very tall ring, so we might even bring it up more, like maybe up to there. So it'll be right after this step down from the halo. Okay. And then what else? So we've got it's wide enough. Now we can go back to looking at if it's poking through. So we can go back to editing this curve. And we know this is in the right place now. We just need to make sure it's not touching. And there's one other thing that I like to do with matching bands. I want this to kind of bend outwards so that the stones are not, flat. Sorry, I've got Find My Mouse because I have a giant screen and sometimes I lose my mouse pointer, so I wiggle it and it shows up. I want to peel this out a little bit. And for a long time, I would just come over here and grab this curve and I would break history on it. Lock no. I would just kind of rotate this and then move this over. And that's how I'd get that peel out. But now I've lost the ability to edit this thing with symmetry. So let me undo that and show you, like, if you're losing history and you can see it ahead of time, like in a template file, you can do something like this. Let me hide these and turn on the points for this. My curves are uneditable. Okay. Grab this and let's bend it. So I'm going to say bend. The start of the spline is here to there. Keep my structure and we're just going to bend it so that it's something like that. Now I still have the ability to edit this with symmetry. Points on. I can make this wider. but now it's tipped over and facing out a little bit. This doesn't feel wide enough. Did I do the thickness on this correctly? Grab this curve, width 2.4. That stone is 2.1. Should be enough thickness. Just doesn't look like it. But it is. Also in my template file, I have this curve and this curve, which are my stone layout curves. So this comes in the template for free. I can just take these guys and say flow, rigid, stretch. Going from here, I pick my target surface so the stones are orientated correctly. And then I just extend this out until I have, and this is another nice thing about using flow, all these stones will be equal spaced. All right, so I want to bury these stones. Right now they're setting on the surface. I want them to be 0.3 under the surface. And then I'm going to look here. I'll just take an offset. I'll just offset this by 0.25. That's how much space I want between my stones. And then I'm just going to stretch this until I get to 0.25. And it's not like in Matrix where you could have stones come around a corner and them actually collide. I've been doing this long enough with flow and target surface to know that there is going to be a 1/4 millimeter of space between this and this, the same as it is everywhere else. So where that's crossing the line just a little bit, I can back this off and know that these guys are just going to kiss. That's inside a little bit. That's surprising. That one kisses. These two. That's surprising. It's actually measuring from here to here, not there to there. I should work on moving this down subsurface by 0.3. How would I do that? I'll think about that. So this is where it's actually measuring from. So if you've got a little impingement, I mean, it's more than, I mean, some people use 0.2 between stones. Like it's still more than 0.2. You're never going to have a girdle touch, but that's not perfect, and I'm going to make it perfect later. Okay. So now we have our stones in the right place. We can turn this back on. And now we do have enough metal on each side for a fishtail setting. So now the last thing to do is just tighten this up. And we're going to again go to this view and use this curve, turn the points on. And right now that's too far away, so we'll bring that in. And I just go a little bit past where that's poking through and then back it off a hair. Back it off a hair. Okay, and then we want this guy to poke through and then back it off a hair. A little bit more. And then these guys will go ahead and poke through just a little bit and back them off one at a time. Okay, I think I went a little bit too big on my circle that cut out because I can't see the side profile, but that's all right. I can get a feel for where it is. All right, so we want to back this out. Now we can see that side profile and then back this out a little bit more. I overdid it because I didn't think I was eating into the ring, but I was. All right, and now the bottom needs to go in just a little bit. This needs to come out. This needs to come out. So I've got 1 point more than I need, so I'll just delete that and move this at the same Y as that. Bring these down. Oh, wrong way. Okay, so we got a flush fit there. And if we look all the way around, so now if I take this whole thing and I move it 0.1, it should all intersect now. That's intersecting. Yep, so a 0.1 move, it's not intersecting at the top. So I'm gonna undo that 0.1 move and make this a little bit tighter. So it starts intersecting there, so maybe I need to back this off, move this corner out a little bit, and move it in. Oh, wrong way. Okay, I see. It's a little bit concave here, and I want to keep this straight, which is fine. From the top, I want it to be straight, even though this ring was made where it's a little bit, you can see it's a little bit convex. I just want to keep this straight across. And I could bend, it's going to be flush across the top. If I want to make the bottom, I can always come back over here to this profile and bend it more. But that's about it. Now I just take this guy and these stones minus the one in the center and mirror it around. And that's it. I've got a contoured matching band that matches this scan perfectly. So going back to some questions here, what do you think of Fusion 360? I like Fusion 360 except for the fact that you can't script it, which you need scripting. And they do not have the same kind of flow tools that Rhino has. At least it's probably been 3 years since I had a license for it. So there was no kind of UDT commands like this, where you could take and lay something out flat and then flow it onto something. One of the things I saw at the Santa Fe Symposium was how they made the old filigree rings, where they would have they would stamp them. They would stamp out a T shank, and then they would bend that T around to create half of a ring. Or they had the O shanks. If you're familiar with, 1920s filigree ring making and are familiar with those dies, but somebody engraved the die flat. It got stamped out and turned into a ring. That kind of stuff you can't do with Fusion 360. And the other thing that bothers me about Fusion 360 is that the cloud stuff. Like I thought at one point in time Fusion 360 does pretty well with fillets. So I'm going to take and do my thing in Rhino and then take it into Fusion 360 and do the fillets there. But the amount of time it was taking to go in and out of the program, same thing with ZBrush. The amount of time it took me to get my Rhino file into ZBrush and start doing stuff where I could just, I'm going to turn off lock history and say join on this, grab all that. Oh, this needs to get moved into place right about there. And the base of that is a little too wide. So grab the polysurface edge, tighten that up. Okay. So now this is all ready to go. I say export to 3D coat. Voxel sculpting, I'll start with a blank because I'll be pulling up customer names if I don't do it this way. Import into voxel space, import it as a child, and scale. So the one I'm using right now is 2250. Hit apply. Yes, remember the scale. And now I can take my fishtail cutters and subtract from the shank. I can take my gem cutters, subtract from the shank, turn the gems white, pose it for a pretty picture for the job file, and then I'm done. Like it's so quick to get in and out of 3D Coat compared to anything else. And that's where Christopher Botha was saying Blender. You can automate Blender to do this kind of stuff where you don't have to come in and actually do it. You can just set up a script to do it. But I made this ring before I left, and it is indeed a perfect match for the other ring. The one thing she wanted was it to be taller, though. Like, she wanted it to be taller, so I gotta redo it and see if I can't bring it up even higher than this. But I'm gonna print a wax or print a resin and let her try it on before I set another round of stones. I understand what she's talking about, but maybe I didn't make it this high last time. Something happened. It was the right fit, wrong height. So Fusion 360 is out for me based on the lack of UDT, Universal Deformation Tools, and scripting. Like, I use both of those a lot. All right. Well, hopefully it took less than 30 minutes to actually do this part, and hopefully you understand what I mean about extracting things, extracting the control and isolating. So you can work on it symmetrically here, but then turn it into a different shape by using a flow. I use a lot of flow things for positioning. And the one downside right now is the way Rhino updates history. When you have, a sibling is also your parent, Rhino kind of goes crazy with the amount of updates they do. I am working on getting that fixed. I kind of feel bad because, I get Joincopy and then they kind of fix Joincopy. I keep saying, like, I just need one thing and I can do this whole parts library. And I get it going, and then, it's not updating 3 objects, it's updating 5. That has really slowed down things to the point where I'll show you one. Go to my GIFs. Let's see. So if I just move this up, it updates so many times. But if I tell it to let history update it, so I've got update history turned off, and then say history update and do it, it's immediate, right? So there's an exponential decrease, exponential increase in the amount of time. And Rhino can do it, like, it's built in there. When I say update all, it's not doing it this way. But when I just get a little bit too many my sibling is my father situations going, like, it can really, really go up in time. This is one of the worst offenders here. So I have this shank profile, and it's all the way around, and I've got this twisted rope flowed into it. Like, I think it's a 20-second update, but without it trying to flow that rope 18 times, it's less than a 1-second thing. Like it literally takes a 1 second operation and it does it so many times in a row that it turns into an 18-second operation. And that's a problem. And hopefully that gets fixed and makes the part library a lot better to use. But you can always turn update history off and do your edits and get it close. You can delete that very heavy flow and just add it in at the end. But that's something hopefully we'll get McNeel to fix soon. Any other questions? And if you guys would go out to McNeel and say, hey, jewelers need tools too. There's not many jewelers on the McNeel forum, so the more people we get, the better. Okay, well, if there's no more questions, we're going to end the stream there. How long have we been going for? Hopefully it wasn't, I didn't overdo it and go too long. I can never tell how long I've been going. 1 hour. All right, that seems like a good good place to end it. All right, join the Discord if you have questions. You want to ask me something, and I'll